Hello and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview series. I'm your host Sonali Nigam, and today I'm joined by James Cadisch, CEO at PHOS. Thank you so much for joining us, James. How are you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sonali. Yeah, really good. Really appreciate you reaching out to get involved in this podcast today.
We are glad to have you on our podcast. So, would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, cool. So yeah, my name's James, founder and CEO of PHOS Architectural Lighting Company. So we design and manufacture high-end architectural lights from the UK and distribute them across the whole of the world. We're a family business. I set the business up with my father 15 years ago, but actually I'm fifth generation engineering heritage really. So we've been working in engineering in the UK for since 1883. I have the privilege of obviously working with my father, who we set the business up with, but also my twin younger brothers, who both work in the business. And still to this day, we have three different businesses under our group, which is quite exciting, all to do with metal and engineering. One is an architectural metals business, an architectural lighting company, and an industrial metals company. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, and yeah, real privilege to be here today.
1883. I hope I've heard it correct, right,
Yeah,
James?
indeed.
When,
Yeah, yeah, long
yeah.
time, long time.
Yes, yes. So what do you attribute your growth to?
Oh, look, it's a funny one, isn't it? I mean, I think, reality of true success really is clarity, right? So really
Mm,
truly understanding who you are, what you're about, what you stand for, and therefore obviously that stimulates all down the food chain, down to all of the employees, so they know what they're fighting for, they know what the vision is, and I think fundamentally getting that vision clear and helps you set yourself in a direction where you know what you're doing and you know what also not to do. But obviously, fundamentally, it's about a team. So we've got a fantastic team. I'm very proud of who they are, what they believe in, and their attitude towards everything. We spend a lot of time curating the culture of the team, how we all work together. We always throw multiple parties all together. We're all friends in and outside of work. We love a good time at our office, and I think fundamentally, if everybody's fighting the same fight towards a common goal, I think that massively helps. Um, I think also, fundamentally, it's to do with the way in which you interact with your clients. We also have an amazing community. So obviously, lighting. I don't know if people know it, but it's an amazingly fun industry. Everybody's very passionate about it. Lighting is a powerful and emotive medium that we don't realize how we respond towards, and
mhm.
the art of lighting design into spaces is imperative, and the people that do it are incredibly creative. It's sort of the balance between technical and creativity, and we have an amazing community. I'm very good friends with a lot of my clients, and they've helped us form this growth trajectory, which has been very exciting. And then we've learned how to serve them, we've learned their needs, we've listened to them, and we've adapted accordingly to try and create the products that they need to create the solutions in their projects. And I guess lastly, really, it's about extremely hard work. I mean, fundamentally, as CEO, I'm sort of front. I'm on the front line. I run around the world. I always have run around the world, making sure I go to all these meetings, understanding what people want, what people would expect, getting this feedback, translating this feedback into the products that we design, etc. So for me, it's always been about being on the front line, understanding the information, really learning what the problems and the needs are in the market, and then translating them back to our design team, who can then action these things really quickly, rather than listening to market hearsay or just assumptions, because assumptions are obviously extremely dangerous.
Very, very, you're right in saying that. What I heard in this conversation, James, how beautiful you have had relation with your team and with your clients. So let's talk about the team first. So what qualities do you look for in employees when you hire them, and how do you foster a positive and a productive work environment?
Look, I mean, for us, it's about somebody that fits into our culture. We're sort of we love life. We're very passionate about what we do, and that person needs to fit into that mindset. As I say, we're doing a lot of social building engagement, which often revolves around having a bit of a few drinks and a bit of a party together. But that kind of thing, that actually really breaks down those social barriers where, obviously we're all working very hard when we're working, but it's really, really important to be able to get to know the people that you're working with from a social and deeper level. So you understand them empathetically, and everybody is on the same line with regards to this. So we really do, and as I said, we're a fifth generation family business. So, we treat our employees like they are our family. And we've actually set up a number of initiatives within our group where every month, every member of the staff, whether you're at the very sort of packing boxes or if you're running sales, it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's equal, and everybody is
Wow.
entitled to commission based on the success of the business. So we do a full company spectrum commission structure so that
Wow.
everybody benefits if our company does well, which I think is really, really important. And we've always been very strong advocates of this.
Interesting. James, you said you are fifth generation of business. Well,
Yeah.
I'm so desperate to ask this. If you could do it all over again, and for example, you were starting the business, you could do it all over again, what extra would you do or what you will do? So I'm very keen to know that.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily change much of what we've done. I think a big thing in life is actually getting on and doing things. I
Mhm.
would 100% say that we have never got it up 100% right. There's no way. We originally actually got into lighting with a company called EcoLED, ECOLED,
Mhm.
and it was sort of the genesis of LED lights into the market as the transaction like the transition away from halogen into LED lights. And
Right.
we originally started manufacturing in China. We were white labeling some product, doing a little bit of basic manufacturing over there. We had no control over our supply chain. It was all a bit of a bit of chaos, and we had a number of huge, huge issues that we had to deal with and weather. And actually, I look at it in hindsight, and I'm so grateful for those troubles because you learn, you grow. You've got to roll up your sleeves and get on with it. And if you don't do these things, then how are you supposed to grow? I'm a big
Mm.
believer in being in control of your own destiny, and that hence why I love to run my own business. But not everybody's like that. But when it comes to people that are, I don't, you can learn lots of wisdom theoretically. I went to university, I got a first from university in business, and I thought, oh, great, I've got loads of knowledge. But actually, the theory of it was absolutely, it didn't serve me at all well being thrown into the business world. And I really, really loved the fact that we didn't get it right in hindsight because I think we're richer and stronger for it mentally. And now, when we come to certain situations, we know how to approach them in a much more sensible manner.
Hmm. Interesting, James. You've mentioned about struggle. Well, because we want this interview to be full of learning for the listeners as well. So, what challenges are you facing currently, and how do you plan to address them?
I mean, look, I think every business faces challenges. It doesn't matter whether you're a huge business, a tiny business. I think it's just how you approach these challenges, right? So our philosophy is solutions, not problems. And it's coming up
Wow.
often. We have the sign in our sort of main office. It's just there for everybody to remember. And I always train our guys to say, look, there's always going to be something that crops up. It doesn't matter what it is. And it's not to say I don't want to deal with it because I always do. It's my business. I really, I care deeply about it. But I always try and train our team to try and look at the problem and come to me with a solution so that we can then explore that solution. And maybe I could add value, or maybe I sign it off, or maybe we think that on another line, whatever it is. But it's coming up with a solution in preparation of coming to me So that
Mm.
we've trained a lot of people to think like that, and for us, that's always been massive. So yeah, we you know we work in construction, and everybody knows in construction is a funny game. On
Yeah,
site things are always going wrong. The unforeseen things happen, and the
true.
problem is it's huge time pressure and huge money involved if things go wrong. And often we're dealing, LED lighting is a technical product, it's electrical component that goes in at the end after everything's gone, and certain things might have happened with it you're not really aware of. And so we deal primarily with installers. And installers will fit this stuff. And so most of the main problems that we have are issues that have happened during the installation. Now,
Mm.
I always say that manufacturers are guilty until you prove innocence. So for us, it's all about trying to create the solutions to prove innocence but also for the end client to actually find a solution. I'm not trying to wash my hands with the problem and go, that's your problem. I'm actively trying to find a solution. So we've actually created technical departments where we've got 3 or 4 electricians who will just go to site and resolve these problems directly for the client. And often what I found, when you do have these challenges, nobody likes to have problems, but it's how you deal with the problem, and
Mm.
often you can create the best relationships of how you deal with them. Phoning people up, dealing with it, having those tough conversations, being honest, being truthful and being helpful and throwing all your weight behind trying to find that resolution. For me, I care deeply about my end client and how they are perceived with their client, and therefore we'll always do whatever it takes to get it over the line, even if it costs us and it wasn't our problem. Hopefully, in the long run, they will see the benefit of our added value. And
Mhm.
as I say, most businesses are not massively differential. In our business, we do downlights, we do spotlights, we do track lights, up lights, linear lights. So do a million other companies. But how do we truly differentiate is us as a business, how we service them and how we deal with problems when problems come to us. So I think massively over the years, that's been a huge part of our sort of relationship building to cement the fact that we don't run away from problems, we don't throw problems away, we actually take them head on and we deal with them collectively so that there is a resolution, even if it costs us in the end.
So, yes, as we were talking, so what would you say as the biggest learning as an owner of the business running successfully?
Look, I mean, I think fundamentally it's about people. Hiring people is really tough, especially salespeople, because anybody can sort of give a little bit of a gift of the gift of the gab, even sorry, to try and get a job,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
only when you really see people
Working.
when they're actually doing stuff, how committed they are, how good they are, do they actually walk the walk, let's say. Um, and I think actually this side of things, I think Steve Jobs once said, you should get very good at hiring, but even better at firing. And I think actually it is true. Sometimes there are certain things where you understand that there's a bit of a disgruntled employee and it's not quite working, and it's actually having a negative effect on the overall culture, overall vision, overall strategy. And when it comes to this kind of thing, sometimes in the past I have sat on it too long, and then it rears its head and has much more of an effect than if you identify that quite early and then go look, and you have to sometimes make tough decisions. I mean, naturally I'm a nice person, and actually as a person who's
Bus.
like normally goes towards the sort of the more kind, conscientious kind of side of things.
Yeah.
It's harder to make those really tough decisions. But as a business owner, you have to do that, and you have to learn,
Yeah.
and your skin has to get thicker. And sometimes making these tough decisions is bigger and better for the broader vision and concept of the business. And I would say that's probably fundamentally the most hard thing in business is to actually be strong enough to do those kind of things.
No, absolutely agree, James. And well, we've talked about so many, and we've touched base on different aspect of your life. So let's talk about a personal aspect as well. So how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business successfully? I'm keen to
Yeah,
know that.
yeah. I thought you might ask this question, and it's a very hard one to answer because I wouldn't say I've got that perfect balance. Yeah,
I'm
yeah. I mean, I when lighting is more of a life vocation rather than my job. I really love it. As I say, I work with my brothers even when I'm at home with my family. My mother goes insane because my father, my two brothers, it's only us. We'll talk about light, we'll talk about this. My wife also gets extremely frustrated when I'm talking about work all the time. But it's something that I really care about. I really love. I really cherish. I'm very grateful to be working in such a beautiful industry. And I think, often we're always spitballing ideas. We're always coming up with new things. We actually set up this passion project, my brother and I, during lockdown called Light Tribe, which is basically a platform, an educational platform about the power of light and how fundamental it is to our existence. And my brother, he's only 32. He's written a book on neuroscience and biophilic design.
Wow.
So how light really is affecting our nervous system, our biology. Even designers, architects, interior designers, they don't have biology lessons, but humans existed under natural light outside for millions of years, and now we spend 90% of our time indoors under artificial light sources. So we set up this platform to raise the profile of this, not just to the industry, but to the wider audience, because this is a total passion for us, and that's why my brother is writing these books. He's now studying for his PhD. This is something that we care about deeply. We want to change the world through light, and this is something that we really, really care about. So I find it really difficult to switch on and switch off because for me it's all the same thing. Work and life, it's the same thing. So fundamentally, I'd probably say I could do a lot better. Try to I think we've all probably got a very bad habit with our phones. So I try and get rid of that at a certain time of night, so I can be with my family and be present every evening and over the weekends. And I do like to have a good time. I love sport, so I always try and make like non-negotiable time for these kind of things on the weekends. But naturally, when you're running a business, life does not run smoothly when you have that 9 to 5 perfect balance. It's not reality. So I don't
True.
think of all the questions you ask, I feel like that would be my weakest area and something I need to personally work on.
I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for your honesty. I am sure our listeners have made some notes that, it's not easy. And sometimes, you can't do both things together, but we try. So,
Yeah.
any last minute notes, James, or let's say a golden nugget that you would like to share with our audience?
I think there's no limit to success really, but fundamentally, in this hugely, hugely competitive world with AI booming and everything, you just have to have a raw passion and get on with it and go and really, really fight for it. Everybody can do so many of the same sort of things, but it's how much you care, how passionate are you, and inspiring passion into the team that around you. Fundamentally, it's your team that is going to get you over the line. You're just the guy who's orchestrating some ideas, and they then have to execute those ideas. And that all comes from raw passion and raw hard work. And for me, there's no substitute for that. In order to succeed, that is the DNA of success in my world.
Wow, that thank you so much, James. I think we've got the line for the podcast. And thank you so much for your time today. It was
Thank you so.
great.
I
Yeah, it
really
was.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, hope
Oh,
it's
it was
useful.
just amazing listening to you, listening to your journey and learning so much more. And we also felt how passionate you and your brother are about this business because it's somebody who's passionate enough can only invest in terms of write books or educate people more about it. So that was just amazing to have us view your journey. So it was interesting. So thank you so much, James, and to everyone watching. I look forward to see you in my next episode. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.